Hey, by show of hands, really quick as we get started, who was part of that group back at 1050 Northfield Court who helped kind of develop Focus as a product? Daryl was in the room, Rodney, Jerry, yep, Tom. Dave, weren't you in the room? I remember you never in there, huh? That was quite a time, and what we want to do this morning in this session is kind of take it from that period of time where we talked about Focus as a product and things that we were going to do for clients individually, and really talk about this more from a philosophical standpoint. And I can't tell you when exactly it happened over time. I can just tell you at some point delivering on Focus as the service product became something that began to drive us philosophically. And we began to think differently as employees of this organization as to how we addressed issues for clients and how we jumped in and took care of things. And so the time that we're going to spend this morning with this panel is really talking about the philosophical side of what we do. And to start that, what I'd love to do is just, let's go down the panel line, if you would. Just introduce yourself and maybe how long you've been with the company and your position and where you work.
Okay. I'm Scott Wellborn. I've been with the company for 14 years. I live in South Carolina. I'm a client development manager, which I have been pretty much the whole time I've been here.
I'm Melissa Oliver, and I've been here for 15 years and done a little bit of everything, and now most of you get all my annoying ISO emails, so those are probably the nag master.
I'm Steve Allen. I work with the sales team today. Done, like Melissa, a little bit of everything because we used to have to. Been here for 23 years and live outside of Atlanta.
I'm Nighty. I've been with Tech Systems for 14 years. I live in South Florida and have worn many hats. Started out in operations, corporate support. Now I'm a business analyst supporting the regional management team.
I'm Joanne Haro. I've been here 18 years. I started out in marketing, I suppose, and in 2010 I took over human resources. And I live outside of Atlanta.
I'm Joey Talton. I've been here 15 years. I live just outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm operations director. Not a big title guy, but that's what I do these days.
Ron Light.
Ron Light. Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of that one.
And my name's Ron Lucene, been with the company now coming up on 21 years in Raleigh, North Carolina. I want to kick this thing off this morning with just talking about Focus and just ask every member on the panel, if you would, describe to us what Focus is to you without using the acronym. Jerry mentioned it a bit ago for our clients' ultimate satisfaction. Without using the acronym, Joey, let's start with you. What does Focus mean to you?
I would say exceeding expectations. It's one thing to meet an expectation. But to exceed that, to go above and beyond. When someone sells you something and you deliver a product, when we go and we give more than just that product, we give that extra touch, that extra follow-up after the fact with, how's everything going today? How's everything going with your camera system or your access control system? So for me, it's all about exceeding expectations. It's about going that little extra that a lot of companies today, quite honestly, don't do. So that's what it means to me.
Joanne?
The word I came up with was commitment. As an individual, I'm committed to doing the best that I can for the employees. I'm kind of different because I'm on the admin, the back office side of it. But I know that you all are committed to the company, and that if I pick up the phone and ask for help, I have no doubt that someone's going to, come to my aid. And do whatever it is I ask, or provide me information that I need. So it's that back and forth commitment between the employees, myself, and then that extends onto the clients.
Yeah, Nighty.
Focus to me means forward thinking, continual improvement, not just of our processes, but us as individuals, and the service that we're extending to our clients. Focus to me is undeniable. Focus to me is strength, because it takes every one of us to be able to deliver that to our clients, and not just to our clients, but to one another. And then lastly, I just say focus is strength. It's all encompassing. That's what focus is to me.
Yeah. Steve?
So for me, it's kind of what Jerry said earlier today. It's doing the right thing instead of doing the thing right. And if you do that every time, you're going to embody focus.
Yeah, absolutely. Melissa?
For me, I think it is always finding a way to accomplish something, and I think that if you truly understand and get focused, that never is not even an option for us. We're always going to try and find a way, whether it be internally or externally for our clients. Daryl putting someone on a plane with a part to try and be there within 8 business hours. It's just not knowing the word can't, and that something can't be done. I think at Tech Systems, we believe that we can make anything happen.
Scott?
Well, there's a lot of adjectives. You see some up here on the screen that describe focus, and I think they're all part of it. One of the things, though, that I found that even though we've done a lot of spectacular things over the years and a lot of great stories with focus for our clients, and those are important, what to me is most important is the simple, basic thing that most people want, and that's integrity. And that integrity has to do with common courtesies and just treating people with the same respect that you would want to be treated with. I find that goes a long way, even more than the spectacular saves that we make sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. At Tech Systems, we talk a lot about client relationships and the value that the word relationship has as part of that, and what it means to continue to do business with a client in that relationship. How does focus specifically play a role inside that relationship? And Joanne, let me start with you on that.
Well, to me, it's the relationship that I have with the vendors that we work with. And Ellie is in the same situation. We're working with insurance companies for our liability. We're working with bankers. I'm working with brokers for your benefits. In turn, they helped me develop relationships with the actual account managers at United Healthcare and Guardian. And we don't select those people to work with us unless we know that they have our backs, that if we call for help, they're going to provide focus back to us. And I think before when we're interviewing those folks over the years, when you get the feeling that they're not going to be there for you 100%, 24/7, you back away from them. So those relationships that we've developed are integral to providing the focus that you need as employees of the company.
How about yourself, Steve?
Well, with the relationships with our clients, it's all about their credibility. If you do what you say you're going to do in the time frame that you say you're going to do it, and they can pass that on to their company, and they're delivering whatever that is, they're delivering, then if you've got their credibility in mind when you're doing that, they're going to come back to you. The focus mentality is built around making sure that we protect that credibility. So I think that's really where we build those relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking just a little bit ago about Georgia Power and the reason that relationship was terminated. And I can't remember if it was Jerry or Daryl, specifically said the word credibility. We had put Ann's credibility at risk. And that was the thing that became the separation in that relationship. That was the piece that was never going to, the value in what we did was still there, right? But putting credibility at risk, that's a game changer, right? Joey, how about yourself?
I think focus really plays into the relationship. I think about clients over the years and how the specific people, many of you guys that are in this room today, they might not say, I love Tech Systems, but I love Dan Combs, I love Miguel Ortiz, I love Tess Jones, I love a particular person. And that's what it means to have a relationship with a client. That's what it means to give them focus, that we're just not out there, like we said earlier, fixing a camera or fixing a door. We're actually selling ourselves and building these relationships. So I think that's what really separates us in that relationship, or drives that relationship, if I can, is the focus philosophy.
Yeah, very good.
Ron, one of the other things, just to piggyback on Joey, every Friday in the Friday newsletter, we see where a client has written an email, taken time out of their day to write an email about somebody that has gone above and beyond what they expected. Those kind of actions from our teammates make it so much easier all the way down the line, from the sales to the installation to everything. That's what building those relationships. I mean, that's what happens.
No, absolutely. And you think about the time it takes to physically sit down and write something out and send it in. You know, sometimes we get that phone call, but so many of our clients will take that extra time to communicate with us in writing, and that is really, it's important. It's important to acknowledge the efforts of so many, but more importantly for us as a team to realize what it meant to that client for them to take that time. You've done something over and above what they're used to or what was maybe even expected, and so that's a big deal. Scott, we talk a lot about focus being something that is delivered by our technicians or our project managers, folks who are on the front line, so to speak, in a client care type situation. But focus can be applied from behind the scenes as well. You know, employees internally within the organization who are here to support those who are on the front lines can also provide focus. And so, can you describe for us a situation maybe where that support played a critical role in exceeding client expectations?
Well, first I would say not only can focus be given by people that are behind the scenes, so to speak, and not out on the front line of the customer-client relationship, but it has to be. If we don't have that type of support throughout the organization, if we're not providing internal focus, we'll never continue to provide external focus. One is critical to the other. I don't know the specific example in my head right now of that happening, but there's countless times when I've encountered people that are in back office support type things that have stepped up in amazing ways to support the people in the field, to support what's going on at the client location, whatever it may be. They're not trying to stay in beside a particular role. They're willing to do whatever it takes. They see us as one group of people dedicated to one thing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Joey, I see you shaking your head up and down. So
Am I
I'm
shaking
sure.
my head?
Yeah, you're probably thinking of times.
Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, just yesterday on the way down, we talk about different positions, and I struggle with titles because for me, and a lot of you guys, you're willing to get out there and roll your sleeves up and do whatever it takes. And on the way up yesterday, there's a situation with First Data that they want to put a disaster recovery, a couple of rooms in a hotel up in Houston. And Keith Rue's involved in that. The program manager's involved in that. The CSR is involved with this. I mean, there's so many people that come together to make that. So, when we talk about back office and things like that, from the CSRs, from the customer service reps, if you guys didn't do what you do every day, our guys would not have the parts in the field. If Michelle did not order every single part for every single job, we would not get jobs done for clients. So there is no one position on this team. It's every single person in this room, every single person in this company makes a huge impact in what we do every day. So,
Absolutely. Joanne, can you think of a time where internally we're delivering philosophically on who we are?
I have a favorite one. This is my favorite call. It's from an employee, it'll be a man. My wife is at the dentist, and they say we don't have insurance. So, the wife isn't happy, and she's on one end of the line, and, he's calling me. And it's my job to say, she hasn't, you have insurance, you are covered, give me the dentist office number. I get in touch with them, I give them the right information. If there's still an issue, then I get our broker involved. And get that taken care of right away. Take care of whatever that pain point is for that employee immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Why does focus matter? If we're delivering on the commitments that we're making to our clients, right? We've put a proposal together. We've sent that out. We've ordered parts. We've installed that. We've signed the job off. We're going out and we're servicing that client when something breaks. Why does focus matter? Why do we have to provide that? And IT?
Without it, who are we? We're no different than the next integrator. I wear this shirt proudly. I'm proud to be a Tech Systems employee and to have worn a number of hats from project management to payroll to analyst over the years. It defines me as an individual, and the people that I work with, and we may not talk every day, but when they call on me, I have to deliver to whomever it is that's making that request. If it's Tracy, if it's Joey, if it's Ellie, if it's Daryl, if it's you. I owe that. That's my responsibility to deliver it every day. So to me, again, I will say that focus is undeniable. It cannot be shaken. It's who we are. Yeah. We spend more time working, really, than we probably spend with our families, to be honest. And if we don't enjoy what we're doing, we're probably not in the right place. But the people in this room have been here for many, many years. And so I'd like to think that we like what we do. As hard and as difficult as it can be sometimes, we've got to enjoy it. I do.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we don't deliver focus, then we're no better than just the last price we gave to somebody.
Yeah, it's true.
That's exactly right. Steve, you manage sales today. Why does focus matter to your team? You guys are on the front lines trying to sell stuff.
Well, it really starts with first impressions, right? If you go out and meet with that client and you don't project the correct first impression, then it's all downhill from there. But from our side, working with existing clients 90% of the time, I can only imagine, but I think our life is so much easier than, say, a Simplex or a Tyco, because we don't have the battle to fight with the client as to how we're not going to screw up the next project, because all the guys in the operations side that are installing it and servicing it, all we hear is how great that side is. So it makes our job, I think, a whole lot easier, because we're not trying to sell them on how we're not going to mess up again.
Yeah. When I think about why focus matters, many of you know Sean Riley, who was our client with Greenville Hospital for a number of years, but Sean tells a story about when he came in and wanting to develop a security program that was new and improved to what the hospital was used to. As he began to build that program and they began to get some notoriety, they ended up on a list of the top 100 safest hospitals in America. And Sean tells a story about taking that upstairs and talking to folks in the C-suite about that. And an individual asked him, what would it take to be number one? And Sean says, well, that's investment. It's going to take investment to make that happen. And the guy says, well, I've got your back. Let's go make that happen. And over time, they came up that list a little bit, and they had a new CEO of the hospital, and Sean went up to talk to him about, hey, we're on the top 100, we're up here at rank whatever that was at the time. And the guy says, that's great. He said, how little can we spend and still just be in the top 100? And so when you think about that's the focus piece, right? Do you want to suck less? Do you want to just be number 100, or do you want to be number one? And I think focus and how we deliver is what allows us to be number one. Most of our opportunities that come to us today come by way of referral. And it doesn't come to us by way of referral because we sell things at a low price. It comes to us because we're recognized for how we deliver, how you folks deliver on who we are philosophically day in and day out. Steve, describe a time when you delivered focus and you saw that light bulb go off with the client, where they actually recognized that what you had done was fanatical.
The thing that, I guess the one incident that jumps out the most at me, and probably the closest I ever got to getting fired. Well, there's been more than one occasion that was on the table, right? But this is maybe the closest. But it had to be 96 or 97. It was right during the time that Jerry and Daryl were talking about putting together a focus program, or maybe we'd just put it together. But we had a hospital up in North Georgia called Hamilton Medical Center. And they had a service call that they wanted us to come out and run. Joint Commission was coming to visit them in a couple of days. And they knew that they were going to fail if their equipment wasn't working. Well, I put him off for a couple of days, and the finally that next day, Joint Commission was going to be there. They owed us money. Jerry and Daryl both had told me specifically, do not go out there until we get paid. So it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Daryl and Jerry were both in a meeting talking about something, so I had my chance. So I'm not sure if Curtis is here or not, but I hadn't seen him yet. You know, I called Curtis, asked him to go up, see if we could get it fixed for the guy. The guy had promised me that, you know, we're getting our money next week. Joint Commission's going to be here tomorrow. You know, if they don't pass Joint Commission, he won't be here next week to pay us. So I talked Curtis into going. Curtis had no idea that, you know, we weren't supposed to be there. We got it, we finished it, they passed Joint Commission, and about 8 o'clock the next morning, both Daryl and Jerry find out that we ran the call. And they come and talk to me. Very pleasant conversation. So I go back and, you know, wondering, okay, am I going to be here the rest of the day or not? And I think Jerry talked to Daryl and said, you know, he did exactly what we've been talking about we want to do. And this is what we've said. You know, we've empowered employees to take care of the clients. And that's all he did, was take care of the client. And I think that's the only thing that saved me. But
in that case, I was still going to fire you and Daryl.
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, Melissa.
You know, we all laughed when Steve said that he's had multiple times that he's almost been fired. And probably every one of us up here and all of you out there have all had that moment at Tech Systems. He fired me in my review one time. It just didn't last very long. But I think it's because to deliver focus internally, externally, to have it, once you do have it and you've been here for a long time, we are very passionate people and we are very fanatical people. And I think that kind of makes us a family. And so you're fighting with that family member. And but I think that we probably all have the firing story just because of all the passion that goes on with what we do. But that's what makes us who we are. We're like one big dysfunctional family.
When I came on board at Tech Systems, Daryl and Jerry's doors each had a label on them. So Daryl's door, if you went to his door, it said Impulse on the door. And if you went to Jerry's, it said Reason on the door. And I think those were over the urinals at the last office.
Yes, they were. One was taller than the other.
But the truth is, and Daryl was impulsive, and you know, that's part of his creativity. He's always dreaming things up, and he's always, you know, quick to act and want to deliver on things. But I am also one of those who was on the front lines to get terminated on multiple occasions. And Jerry, Mr. Reason, was the one that talked Daryl off the ledge. So I became known as one of Jerry's kids over the years. But
Saved me too.
Joey, describe for us a time when you know that what you delivered to that client, that they really recognized in that moment that what you delivered on was fanatical.
Yeah, so in thinking about that, we were contacted, I just thinking back to one of our clients in Greensboro, North Carolina, used to be Lord, now they're ITG. They had a guy that was on the third shift, and Keith could probably comment on this. He was going behind in this huge tobacco warehouse facility, I mean chemicals everywhere, and he was taking smoke breaks on third shift in the back, and they needed to find out who it was. They didn't know. They'd come back and they'd find cigarette butts. So got a call one day. We didn't have any covert cameras. So we went out with, I think David Freeman was involved in this with me, and put a DVR in, snuck it in there, hid it, put a camera up, set it up for recording. That night they went back and watched the video the next day, saw the guy, took care of that situation. But you know, the liability that client had, and we talked about that earlier, the credibility, the liability involved with that. If he'd have lit that place up, I mean, there would be lives lost. So it's really serious every day what we do, right? I don't think all of us sometimes understand what we do and how critical it is for these cameras to work and be recording and all that. But that was one instance. I think others, as when I first came to Tech Systems, I came in pretty green. I didn't know a whole lot. This Tez taught me a great deal about access control and CCTV. So But back then, we didn't have, we have on-call rotations today, and we have guys in areas across the country. Back then, when you were on call, man, you were on call for like 3 states. You know, there wasn't no, oh man, I got to go 45 minutes up the road. You got to go like to South Carolina from North Carolina or Virginia. And I just remember those times walking into Virginia, to Richmond, Virginia. I can't remember the client, but the lady's like, oh, you're new. Hadn't seen you before. And I'm like, yeah, I came from Raleigh. And just the look on her face, like, you drove from Raleigh to take care of our issue. And that's kind of what it was back in the days. And even before me, I mean, when it was Dave and you know, just about 5 people here, I couldn't imagine what that was like to go through. So I just think about those times when it comes to giving focus. Now, in management, man, I get to see guys doing this kind of thing, and it is amazing. I mean, hats off. If I had a hat on, I'd take it off for every one of you guys. It's amazing to be a part of that and see what you guys are doing every day. So.
You know, when I think about, you know, when clients recognize that we're delivering something fanatical, for me, many times it's that client who's trying to talk us out of coming to deliver on what it is we promised, right? It's like, no, don't make them come out tonight. Tomorrow morning it'd be fine, or, you know, next Monday it'd be fine. It's like, no, that's not what you purchased. What you purchased was that we were going to be there in 4 hours, and we were going to do everything we could to leave you 100% functional. And that's what we want to come deliver on. And so many times it's in those moments that our own clients are trying to talk us out of trying to deliver on something that's fanatical. When you're delivering that fanatical customer service day in and day out, many times you become more aware of when it's not being delivered to you in your own personal life. And maybe you could describe one of those times where, you know, Scott, you recognize that, you know, what it means to deliver on customer service was not being provided to you, and you recognize that very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, everybody wants and needs service. We need it in our business life, we need it in our personal life. And one of the realities of life is that very rarely do we get the kind of service that we expect or that we believe we need. And so very quickly after I started selling Focus for this company, I was aware the first time I walked into a Walmart store that they weren't providing Focus-like service. And a number of other places like that. And of course, I'm like Daryl, when I get highly critical, and I also may mention to them that they're not providing service. But I had a situation just this past week. We had come out of one week of being out of town and getting ready to head for another week of being out of town, so we had some serious dirty clothes. And the washing machine broke. And I've got a home warranty that I've had for about 15 years, and I've replaced a number of appliances under it. So I called them, and they came out the next day. They did come out the next day as they promised they would. When the technician got to my house, he had no idea that mine was a warranty call, that he was working for the warranty provider. He thought he was just on a straight call. They hadn't told him. So I had him call back to the office to get this squared away, because all I had was a copay if it did it under the warranty. And his boss told him, said, don't do the call because we have a beef with the warranty company. So I'm standing there in a pile of dirty clothes, and a wife is saying, when's this going to get fixed? And this guy's saying, I can't do the work. And I said, well, give me a price on what it would do if I just pay you in full for getting this washing machine taken care of, because it needs to happen now, which he did. So I called the warranty company and told them what had happened, and said, I'm going to go ahead and just pay this guy because I need to have a washing machine fixed, and I don't have that window of time. They said, oh no, don't do that. And I said, why not? They said, because we'll void your warranty if he does. So I thought for a moment, I said, well, there's a pickle that a lot of our clients find themselves in from time to time. Okay? They've got a problem. They're willing to pay to get the problem resolved, but they've got 2 entities fighting against them to tell them that it doesn't meet their needs. Mm. Yeah. I eventually got it resolved, but it was painful.
I can imagine. How about any others on the panel? Certainly you've had some personal experiences where, oh, yeah. Melissa.
Yeah. I think that many of you in the room can probably relate to this, but in my house, we actually say to each other, you're not providing me focus when things happen that, you know, don't go my way, or I want something done a certain way. The funniest incident that I had was I took my nephew after one of his t-ball games to McDonald's, and it was like, I think they start serving lunch at 11, and I think it was like 10:45, you know, 10:50. and he wanted chicken nuggets, and the lady told me he can't have chicken nuggets, but he can have pancakes or whatever, and I muttered under my breath something about clearly they don't have focus. And his response was, Nisna, I just want chicken nuggets. So, I mean, it was like, he had no clue. But it definitely becomes a part of you, and focus isn't just a product. I mean, it's definitely hero philosophy that sticks with you.
I had something similar happen at a Kroger store. It was on a Saturday night, and we were waiting to pick my son up from some event. I guess he wasn't driving yet. And my husband and I decided to go do grocery shopping. And we had a really full cart of groceries. And we got in the checkout line, and I had a bottle of wine. And the clerk said, you can't buy this wine. And I said, why not? He said, well, we don't sell it past midnight on Saturday because Georgia had the law that you couldn't sell liquor on Sundays then. And I looked at the clock that was right within eyesight of us, and I said, but it's 11:40. And he said, I'm sorry, our computers are closed down for liquor, you can't buy it. I said, but it's 11:40, it's not midnight.
Yeah, I need that.
And he said, I'm sorry, you can't buy it. And I said, you know what? And I paraphrased Daryl. I said, I'm really sorry for being such a bad customer. I don't need any of these groceries. So everything that they had already bagged and the stuff that was still in the cart, I said to my husband, we're out of here. And we just walked out. He kind of looked at me and said, what's that all about? And I said, hey, that's no way to treat a customer. So that was my focus story.
Hey, Joey.
So show of hands, how many times have you guys had the Time Warner cable guy actually show up when he said he was going to show up?
AT&T.
Nobody. I just want to throw that out there. Just that is the worst customer service I've ever experienced. To be told I'm going to be there between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. or, so just wanted to share that. That's one that sticks out in my head.
It makes us horrible customers because our expectations are so high. I mean, we're doing it day in and day out. If I need something, I can pick up the phone and call any team member, and sincerely, a name can't come to my head of someone I wouldn't want to call, that because they wouldn't do what I asked them to do. And it just makes you a really bad customer, I think, in the real world.
Sadly, you see this, at least I do in my experience, you expect it with sometimes big franchises or large conglomerates, but I see it in small, privately owned businesses. I see where a small group of people with a business that they need to make work every single day sometimes is the most resistant to providing ongoing customer service of anybody I run into. And you wonder what they're thinking about.
Yeah. We talk about focus being a philosophy, right? So is that, I begin to think about that in terms of, is that something an individual is born with? Are you just like that from your mother's womb? That's who you are? Or is it something that can be taught over time? So I'm just going to go down the panel. Scott, is it caught or taught?
I think both.
Okay.
I think if the person doesn't have a mentality that's teachable and to unlearn some things that they've already learned, they're probably not going to do well in our focus environment. But I think it can be taught as well, and I think people who've had a different experience, if they're open to the idea, learn over time that it's not only the right thing to do, it's a smart thing to do.
Melissa?
I agree. I think it's both. I think that it has to be within the person that they really believe it. I don't think that that you can teach someone who doesn't think it's necessary to go out at midnight. But you definitely can teach someone who wants to embrace it and wants to be a part of it, and that's those people in this room. I always jokingly say you're here for 10 minutes or 10 years. You either get it or you don't.
What do you think, Steve?
I think the person has to have the foundation, and then you can teach a lot if they've got that foundation. So I think it's caught, not taught.
Yeah. IT?
For sure, I think it takes both. Ron, when you hired me, you said, hey, listen, you'll know within 60 days whether or not this is the place you want to be. And it was so true. It was absolutely true. I think it takes not just the skill set, but the intuition, right? To know when you're in the right place and amongst the right people. Because if you stick a bad seed in the midst of really good worker bees, you know pretty fast that this is not the place for you. But I think that you can also take someone that may be a little bit uneasy or unbalanced,
Right.
in understanding if this is the right place, but then begin to pick up on the strength of others and see that they're delivering it. And then they tend to sometimes step up too. And that can be your shining star. So for sure, I think it takes both.
Absolutely. Joanne?
I agree that it's both. I think a good example is with the young apprentices that we hire. We're teaching them the skill set that they need. We see something in them when they're being interviewed that we think that they're going to have that spark. But we teach them focus. We teach them what that means. And then it's like everybody said, they're going to catch it or they're not. But then the part that I think the caught part is just not in some folks' innate personality. And if it's not part of their personality makeup, it's never going to be there.
Yeah. Joey?
Yeah, I gotta agree with everyone here. It is both. I remember when I first started, that desire to always want to do unto others as you would have them do unto you is there. But then, not long after I was hired, I watched Tez and another gentleman do something miraculous for a client. I thought, wow, this company is really different, and I see you guys sitting here today, and I'm like, that's pretty amazing. So that was the taught part for me. I had it in there. Many people have it in there, but to actually see somebody else deliver on that commitment, it just draws you into wanting to be a part of it. So definitely both on that.
Yeah, I see that a lot, honestly, where I think that we've got a lot of individuals who have worked for other companies over the years who talked about being customer driven, but it was really a tagline on a marketing ploy other than a philosophy that really drove who they were as an organization. And I even think in my own experience, I'd worked for a number of companies where I could make promises to clients, but I just knew that if I didn't track that every step of the way, that ball would be dropped. And while Jerry and Daryl told me it was going to be different at Tech Systems, I didn't believe it here either until I experienced that everybody here cared about the client. Frankly, they cared about the client more than they cared about me, which was refreshing, to be honest, was that, that we were going to do whatever it took to take care of those clients. And so, when I think about now as we have begun to grow, and we did business in a number of countries last year. We are coast to coast. Lots of employees even working out in areas with very little supervision. That's where I begin to think about the caught and taught. And those who it's naturally ingrained, they're going to deliver on that whether somebody is watching or they're not. And there are others of us who believe we have it, but given an opportunity to come back on Monday, we'll take it. We won't even argue with the client. And so think about that, in your own personal situations, what it means to deliver on our philosophy. And so, with that in mind, Scott, when we think about that growth and we think about focus and what focus was when you started, do you think we're still driving and delivering focus today with the same fanatical approach? Or has it begun to lessen over years? Do you think focus is getting better, or are there areas of focus that are beginning to decline?
I thought about that a long time when you sent that question out, and I think you could try to make arguments with isolated incidents for whatever you wanted. But I would say no, it hasn't really stepped back at all. If anything, our ability to deliver has dramatically increased because we've added more resources and more people and more competency than we've had in the past. The challenge for us, of course, is the fact that it's a whole lot more difficult to manage 250 plus people in a focused mentality than it is a half a dozen. So because of that, a lot of the work we have to do, both in the leadership roles and in the field roles, is continue to understand that and to drive ourselves to continue at that level. So I don't think growing has hindered it. I think it's helped it, but at the same time, it's presented some really strong challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. Joey, how about yourself? I mean, you've been involved in the field from day one. I mean, what do you see?
Yeah, again, to piggyback on Scott, the regions have grown, the area has grown. There's folks out in remote places today that aren't beside a key through every day or a Josh Stroner. So there are some challenges there. I think we can continually strive to get better. I believe focus is strong. I believe the philosophy is intact, but I think it can get better. I think anything worth doing is worth working hard for. So I think, looking at the future, looking at the men and women that are in this room today that have lived focused all of their careers, we're the ones that are going to be able to kind of help these younger generation, I guess, whippersnappers, I guess is what another word for it, to really see what focus is and deliver on that. So it is strong, but I believe it can be stronger.
That it is key to everybody in this room. It's up to us to instill that in the employees that are coming up to today. And I look at 20 years with the company. It doesn't seem like a real long time to me. But when I find out we've hired individuals who are actually, they've been on this earth less time than I've worked for this company, you begin to think about the impact that you can have and the number of people that you can touch over a career. And so, who we are philosophically, that's each of you. It's our 255 employees that are out there. That's the philosophy. Without the employees, none of that matters. We'd be back to competing on price again. And so, as new folks are coming in, and it's up to you to mentor them. It's not, the days of having one-on-ones with Jerry and Daryl, like Steve or myself or anybody on the panel, sometimes because we were in trouble. But that opportunity to get it straight from them is not. It's not going to present itself like it used to. We've got Tour de Focus. It's an opportunity to get face to face with these two guys to really talk about who we are philosophically. But it's up to you. You guys are the leaders. With 10 plus years in the company, you're the ones that we count on today to teach those who come in what it means to deliver on who we are philosophically. At Tech Systems, we believe that our philosophy provides a competitive edge. And what are some of the things that we do that our clients recognize as that competitive edge? And I'm going to give one quick example, and then I'm going to start with you, Joey. We had, Joey mentioned earlier, back when he was on call in the early days, it was 3 states, and literally it was. And I often hear folks who have been here 15, 18, 19 years talk about how it was different back then compared to what it is today. I see some of you shaking your heads up and down already. But I think Joey touched on something that, the resources that we have today are much more dense than they used to be. You got a better population of folks to tap into. There's more parts on the truck today than probably there ever has been before. And so our ability to deliver is a little bit different now than it used to be. But we had a situation a few weeks ago where a client was going into an audit, and they went to search for some video, and there was nothing there from 90 days back. And our response to that in that situation, as the technician at the ground level was beginning to work on that, was to immediately put Root on an airplane and fly him 2 states, to Jacksonville, Florida, to personally get involved in that situation. And when I met with that client that following week to have a conversation that was, not a pleasant conversation to have. When you lose video for a client who's relying on that from an audit perspective, and that is, it's part of their business continuity plan is to have that available. That's not a pretty conversation, but what he said, and I've heard this oftentimes over the years, he said, the way you guys responded, putting Root on an airplane and bringing him down here made all the difference to my leadership team. They couldn't believe that you guys had done that. And so, Steve, think about it from a sales perspective maybe. What are some of the stories that you've heard over the years where, clients recognize that what we're doing is fanatical and it's now provided that competitive edge for you?
Well, like we were talking about earlier, I mean, from the service technician to the PM to everything, our jobs as a sales guy, I think is, I won't say the easiest job in the company, but it's a lot less difficult because of what all the guys do out in the field, right? And I really think that, whether it's Jack Hawkins at Merck Chemical, who, Daryl actually used to do proposals, guys. I mean, he would send them out with his name on them and everything. And the first time I met his client, which was Jack Hawkins, he takes you to the wastewater facility, gets you to walk across a steel bridge so that he can call Daryl up 15 minutes later and say, I got another one, So building those kind of relationships, it's beyond business. It's not just a handshake deal and, call me when you want something else. Building those relationships, I think, is what really allows us to provide that focused philosophy to them. Because if it's only about $1, then we're never going to do that.
Joey, what are some things that we do that provide that competitive edge?
Just our thinking about our objectives, our quality objectives as a company. When you look on SharePoint over to the right, it tells the three things that we do. One of them is response time and functionality. To me, those are the most critical things that we do in this company that really separate us from ADT and, God forbid, I'm going to say it, Tyco, and all these guys that are doing the same thing that we do. They're putting up cameras, they're training people, they're getting sign-offs, they're doing all this. But those two things, for me, I see separate us from everything. When we promise a client a 4-hour response time and we meet that response time and we're there within 4 hours, or we promise them the 100% functionality of what we're working on as a company and we deliver on that. And if that takes a guy running to the airport, putting a part on a plane in California and sending it to Charlotte, North Carolina and getting that client up that night, man, I don't hear of other companies doing that personally. So I know that the reaction that I see from our clients, just the reaction that I have from that is pretty awesome. So I think that's the definite separator in what our clients say about us and what we deliver. So.
I saw who we are philosophically play out this past week with Hurricane Harvey in Houston. And so, there was a team email set up where the team could communicate with each other during the course of that storm. And a couple times a day, everybody would check in and talk about what the impact of the storm had been or what their needs might have been. And to see just I think it was our philosophy really playing out, to see how folks were treating each other individually in a time of need. What do you need? Do you need fuel? Do you need a place to stay? Do you need, do your family need, whatever that need is, somebody wanted to figure out how they were going to meet that. And my guess is most other companies that we compete with didn't have that kind of camaraderie going on in the midst of a storm where they cared that deeply about individuals and how they were going to take care of them. That's who we are philosophically. That's how that plays out. Before I open it up to the room for some questions, any closing comments from the panel? We've touched on a lot of things here today. Anything you want to say to wrap it up?
Well, I would say that the success of Focus is many things, but principally it's the fact that we put the credibility of our client as the paramount focus of what we're doing. And I don't think you see that particularly in the industry we're in, I don't think you see that with our competitors. It's the project itself, it's the financial piece of it, it's a lot of different things, but it's never the client's actual credibility.
Very good. Anybody else? Let's,
Well, Ron, I'd like to
go
hear
ahead,
IT's final thoughts.
Remember that A lot of people in this room know me. Some of the new
Somebody's gonna
folks
have to
don't.
rescue him off an island out there. And
I've already told Steve that, Melissa said, hey, Nancy, there's some woods out, not too far from here that you can just take Steve out there and kick his ass. And I said, why? I got a corner right here.
That's Focus. It's going to be caught.
Yeah, that's the love.
Yeah.
We've known each other a long time. We've had some ups and downs, but I think that Steve is right in that in order for us to deliver it, and everybody on this panel, I think, we are all in agreement that to deliver it, we've got to believe it. And it's not just about delivering it to our clients, but it's about delivering it to ourselves and to one another, and to being there for one another when we're in challenging situations, because we all face them regardless of position, regardless of title, regardless of location. Focus is who we are, day in and day out.
Yeah, I don't hear it's not my job much here. I used to hear that in a lot of different organizations that I worked with over the years, but people will step up and they'll step in, do whatever it takes. Any questions? Questions for the panel? Daryl?
In the spirit of putting people on the spot, Steve, how about telling everybody the Novellas story and how quickly that whole thing has unfolded and what it's resulted in a very short period of time?
Okay, so I'll just pick up from 6 weeks ago, maybe, Daryl? So 6 weeks ago, we get a call from Novellas, and we actually know the two guys that work there. One's a former employee, Dwayne Robinson, that some of you guys may know. I think Alan Moat actually hired him when he worked for us. The other guy is Joel Barnes, who worked for Motorola over in Lawrenceville. And a lot of these guys have worked for Joel too. Well, they called us because they had been working with Siemens. They knew that they really weren't getting what they wanted, and they were in a position to where they had parts of a system that wasn't working. The guy at Siemens was in the middle of a 9000 upgrade, and his vacation came up. So Friday afternoon, wherever he got to in that upgrade is where he stopped. And he was off for a week. And nobody else within Siemens picked that up to make sure that Novellas, the client, was able to function for a week. So he called Daryl and I. Daryl and I and Ethlyn. Ethlyn actually went down and helped us with this one, but Daryl went in, closed the deal that day.
Because only he can.
So
Now we know why he brought it up.
By the time that we walked out of the meeting, Joel had already asked for 2 proposals, and Daryl had already committed that we'd get somebody with the professional service group in to help solve the problem on the upgrade.
And we did.
I called Justin, told him what we needed on the proposals. We had proposals completed within 3 or 4 hours and back to the client. We talked to Tua and Wayne. Leon Bishop, I don't think he's quite 10 years yet, but Leon actually left that afternoon, went over, got all of their clients on the upgraded system that they needed. And I mean, I hate to say it, but Siemens made us look like heroes. I mean, we could have fallen all over ourselves and still been better than what they left, the position they left them in, right? But we stepped up, we got all the immediate problems resolved. We got POs for those 2 proposals within the following week. We've gotten 3 or 4 proposals since that have been agreed upon, probably 1 or 2 different POs, and we're talking about nationwide as well as Canada. So it's a big deal.
Big damn deal.
Very good. Other questions for the panel? Let's get your microphone, Chuck. Hang on one second.
Jerry.
I thought.
Stand up, Chuck.
For about the last 45 minutes, I've been answering some text messages here. Some of you may inhale sharply here. XO Communications sent me a text message saying that the system we just finished installing yesterday was completely dead. This is where we're a little bit different. When will you be out? I said, well, just as soon as I can texted Greg Shaw, who's covering for us up in Memphis today. Greg ran over there. It was a simple matter of a blown fuse. And by the way, those little 3-amp mini fuses are hard to find, so we need to get some of those distributed out. System's back up, and his comment, quote, was, "Holy crap, y'all are quick." Last time I called Stanley for something on the card access, it took them 2.5 weeks to get out here. So that's kind of, I just thought I'd share that. That was kind of a good thing to go on here for a new client who's coming on that's actually voiced some concern about changing up and everything. So
That's all.
Awesome.
Amen.
Good story.
Dave Sherman, get your microphone.
Somebody join me.
He just wanted to use the mic.
Second row.
Only when they turn them on.
Happy birthday to you.
Ron, I was just going to say, you have a great story that you've told. I think you were meeting with another integrator that was of similar size to us and was talking about or asking about how we had been so successful, and you were describing the focus philosophy, and they then had a discussion with you about how impossible I think it was, or how there's no way they could do that. But yeah, share that. I thought that was a great story.
That was actually, Daryl and I were in a session at PSA Tech, and we got to a place in that session where it just kind of morphed into something other than, I think, what was intended. But there was a bunch of integrators in the room that were asking Daryl and I about tech systems and how we respond to service calls in 4 hours and leave folks 100% functional. And not only did several in the room question how that's even possible, but good for us, several of them in the room said, why would you even do that? It's completely unnecessary. My clients are perfectly happy with me coming tomorrow or the day after or 2 days after. That's the difference. That Jerry said it, earlier from his seminar that he took up at Pelco. I mean, if you're going to do something, just do something so radically different that nobody would ever even dream of following it. In fact, they would describe you as crazy for trying to do it. That's it. Yep. Any other questions? K. Rue. They're going to edit this, Christine, so you can walk through the camera.
Oh, can we? I'm like, okay, every other side. Where are you? Down there.
Yeah. Keith, we got a close-up for you.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I wanted to kind of follow up on that and say not only can our employees catch it, but also our clients. And I had a lunch last week with the Clearinghouse with Jim Yancey and Don Foster. And we know that that's been kind of challenging lately. And we're having lunch, we're talking over things, and Don is new. I've been working with Jim for the last 4 years. Don is new as their security manager, and he was talking to Jim and he looked at Jim, and he looked at me, and he said, Keith, I don't want you to take offense to this. He said, but Jim, I think Tech Systems is ripping you off. He said, I don't think that this focus thing is necessary all over the place. I think we just need it in Winston-Salem, because this is, where our main data center is. And I kind of looked at Jim, and Jim looked at me, and he said, I got this. And he turned to Don, and he said, look, Don, you have to understand, I need two things. He said, I need a level cost for what it's going to take to keep our security systems up and running all the time. And he said, I need somebody who's going to protect my credibility. And these are the only guys that do it. He said, so I know that we could probably save some cost by not covering our other sites under focus. He said, but this is worth it. These are the only guys who can do it. So, things don't work out at the Clearinghouse for Jim, I think you could probably come onto our business development team. But it was nice to hear, and it really made me feel good that what I'm doing, what our team is doing, it's making a difference, and our clients are seeing it to the point that they're not even asking me to defend us anymore. They're defending us for me. So.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Very good. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Tracy McCurdy. We get you a microphone. 'Cause we can't hear your big booming voice from back there.
I just want to interject one thing. I know a question to you, a matter of fact. How much success do you think we've had in client growth that has come from word of mouth from other clients? I think that's very important to bring out also, because that's a direct reflection of what we do every day for our clients. So how much growth do you think we've done over the years just because of what we do every day on a daily basis?
What I can tell you is when I came on board with the company in 1997, we were just putting focus on pen and paper, right? Taking it and developing it. And we were about a $4 or $4.5 million company that year. And this year we'll do in excess of $55 million. And that is not anything other than who we are philosophically. We are not the low price leader in our markets that we serve. I can tell you time and time again, clients come to us questioning pricing. They still do business with us because they recognize what we're delivering philosophically is completely different from anything else that they're going to get from anybody else. And their credibility is at stake, right? We talk about those words frequently, credibility, liability. There's several of them that you could throw there together that our clients spend a lot of time as an owner of that system and responsible for security as Keith just described for an organization. They want to partner with people who are going to protect their credibility, and it's not price, it's focus. That's what it is.
And that's my whole point. It is about the focus part of it, because without us doing what we do every day, we wouldn't have that growth.
Exactly.
And
Our
Tracy,
other clients would not even entertain us because the people, the Navicents, the Tesis, the Aflacs, the other clients that we deal with, their word of mouth to other people and other clients brings us more business than what we could ever put out to market on sales pitches.
We don't talk about this frequently, in the open, but there are many times when we meet with folks and they describe what it is that they're looking for as an organization. And as we kind of work through that conversation about who we are and how we deliver, you get to this place where you say, you know what, this just isn't a good fit. And, we'll say no. Or, Daryl described terminating that relationship with Georgia Power because it was no longer mutually beneficial. It's those kinds of situations, Tracy, where we're going to do what's right by who we are philosophically, and the clients who recognize who we are philosophically are going to continue to come to us by word of mouth because we have delivered on that time and time again. Larry?
Answer Tracy's question about manufacturers while you're talking.
We're just going to grab a microphone for you. We get this on tape.
I was just saying, add to Tracy's question while you're talking, if you would, the manufacturers who have confidence in us and how much they trust us in addition to our clients.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so we have to align ourselves with manufacturers who understand who we are philosophically, right? Everybody else that they're doing business with today, they're counting on them to have a bunch of individuals who are knocking on doors day in and day out to try to generate business. And that's not how we go to market. And to Larry's point, there's a number of manufacturers who are knocking on our door and want tech systems because their other integrators have failed the clients that they're currently serving as a manufacturer. So the reputation of that manufacturer is now at risk. Not just that company's credibility, right, in that the end user, that individual's credibility is at risk, but several situations where very large end users were very, very close to tearing systems out that they had made a huge investment in. And a manufacturer came to Tech Systems and said, you are the guys, we need you. On that, let me tell one other quick story. Many of you are familiar with Medtronic. And Medtronic actually selected which systems they wanted to have compete for their business. They did all of that behind the scenes with a consultant. Integrators were not involved in that at all. In the end, they selected 3 products that got shortlisted to 2, Linnell and S2. And Linnell came in to see Medtronic and present to them with, I think it was either 2 or 3 different integrators to provide a price. S2 came and said, if we're going to do this job for you, we're only going to do it with Tech Systems. And if you're not interested in Tech Systems, then S2 is not going to do the job. That's exactly what Larry is talking about. That's an organization who believes we have the horsepower, and hats off to the pro services team in this company. I'm telling you, you guys work your tails off. You've drug us out of more ditches. There's not enough of you. But thank you, because you guys made the difference. These manufacturers recognize that what we deliver on many times is because of the level of expertise that we've got that just nobody else has, period. Tony?
Customer satisfaction, we talked about service calls and our response time. Where did the preventative maintenance inspections come from? And I do like that we do that. And do other companies do that? Or is that a tax
Yeah.
system thing?
Other companies do. I don't know that they take it as seriously as we do, but Scott, I know you're passionate about PM inspections, and you've talked about that from the value of what focus is and about taking care of things before they break. You want to expound on that?
Well, just from being in front of clients is what I do, and prospective clients for this company. I go back to the credibility, and you can't provide a complete solution that is based on system performance without preventative maintenance. You've got to get ahead. If you're like the rest of the industry and you're always waiting for something to break before you go into action, there's a credibility gap. Anytime a system goes down, even if it's one piece that fails or a whole system that goes down, somebody's credibility is at risk. So we're not magic to the point that we can stop everything that may happen, but if we're doing PMs on a regular basis as prescribed, and we're doing them seriously where we're really trying to get ahead of failure, it's significant in a big, big way.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also significant in the amount of call-outs that come in after hours. You know, they've been reduced drastically over the years. The better we get at doing PMs and have systems functioning, those call-outs go down.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can say one more thing, Ron. Just in a particular market, our growth in the hugs, infant protection market, I think has been around one thing and one thing in particular, and that is our ability to go in every 30 days and deal with the system directly and the people that interface with the system. It has expanded that market dramatically, and nobody else is providing that level of service for that product.
Not at all. Who else? Well, very good. I appreciate everybody's time and attention. Thank you to our panelists.